Okay, let's jump in and get started. I'm Jen,
I'm Steve-O.
and we're from Two Can Travel, and today we're going over how to manage your finances for full-time travel. So thank you so much for being here. If you're catching us on the replay, we're happy you're here, and we hope that you get a lot of value out of this. Um, so let's jump in.
And so can you.
All right, just a quick disclaimer.
This presentation is not financial advice. It's just information based on our experiences living abroad and traveling the world for the past 13 years.
But we have packed a ton of information into this that we know will be helpful if you are planning to travel the world full time or just for short periods of time, whatever your situation is. This is definitely stuff that will help you. So, a little bit of background about us. Steve and I have been living and traveling and working around the world outside of the US since 2011.
And it's great. We were teachers in schools in Asia, in China, and Cambodia from 2011 to 2018. And in 2018, we decided to take this show on the road. And we've been living as digital nomads ever since.
So, a lot of what we're sharing today is based on our personal experience and things we've figured out along the way. We're not special. You can do this too. So, if you want to travel the world full time as a digital nomad, a retiree, you can do it. Whatever you have going on. We like to consider ourselves semi-retired. We are just kind of living this full time travel lifestyle where we travel and work. But we're really enjoying life, and we think that travel can just bring out so many amazing things. So we want that for more people, and that's why we're sharing this information.
I think you're special.
Thank you. I think you're special. Okay.
So here's what we're going to, a brief overview of everything that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to start with banking and credit cards with some simple advice that'll save you money right now. Then we're going to get into budgeting from full-time travel. That is different for everybody, but we'll give you a brief idea on how we go about doing that. On number three, we're going to tell you what OS and HYSA stands for. That'll be fun. And on number four, we're going to go over the real fun stuff, the reason that you're here today. And we're going to talk about insurance and taxes.
And then we'll have a little Q&A. We already have some questions that have been submitted this week. So we'll go over those questions and anything else that comes up. So if you are watching the replay of this and you have questions that we don't address here, please do reply. We're going to send a follow-up email after this session is done to everyone, whether you're live or watching the replay, with lots of information that we go over today in it. So please feel free to reply to that email and ask us any other questions if we missed anything. All right.
So here are some first steps to take even before you hit the road, stuff that will save you money starting today. So something you want to look for is find a bank with no ATM fees. Personally, we use Charles Schwab, and we've been using them for over 15 years.
Yeah, I think I've had them since I've had them for like 17 years. Charles Schwab is the only bank that we're aware of, but there may be others that charge you no ATM fees anywhere in the world. So whether you're in the States or anywhere abroad, you can withdraw money from any ATM. And at the end of the month, any ATM fees that you've accrued during that month, they will return those directly to your bank account. So we have literally saved thousands of dollars at this point in ATM fees. I was doing some calculations, and just in the last 2 years, while we were traveling in Europe, we saved almost $500 on ATM fees. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. And the reason it's so nice to have a bank that doesn't charge you ATM fees is those fees can range from $4 to $10 every time you take money out, which is pretty steep. And so it might make you feel like I need to take a bunch of money out at once. So I avoid pulling out money often, but then you have a bunch of cash on you, which is not comfortable. So we can literally withdraw like $20 for dinner and then just go to dinner, and we don't have to pay that ATM fee that gets returned to us. So we would highly recommend this to you. You can do that right away. You can even sign up online through charlesschwab.com. So
Definitely recommend the Schwab card.
yeah.
The next thing we recommend is finding a credit card with perks, but more specifically, no international fees. Different cards have different rules, but no international fees should definitely be number one with the bullet.
Yeah.
Because again, just like the ATM fees, every single time you charge something, you're going to get dinged with maybe even up to like 3% per transaction. I did this with a card once. I linked it up to my Uber, and as I was looking through my statement, it was like, there's the ride. And then there's the ding and the ride and the ding. And I was just like,
Yeah, it's very annoying.
I'm a big dumb goof.
It doesn't seem like much money, 3%, but it does add up really quickly, and it's completely unnecessary when there are so many credit cards that do offer no international fees. The other awesome thing about credit cards, especially credit cards geared toward travel, are the perks that you get. So we personally have two credit cards that are airline credit cards. We have one with JetBlue and one with American Airlines, because those are airlines that we fly fairly frequently, especially when we come visit family in the States. But we've also used those airlines internationally. And with those two cards in particular, we get free baggage for checked bags. So a lot of cards with airlines do offer that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the state of airlines now, where they nickel and dime you for every single little thing, the free bags are well worth it.
Yes, absolutely. The other perks you can get are things like airport lounge access with credit cards. You can use your points toward different things. You can get cash back, or you can get hotel rewards. There are so many perks that you can get by using a credit card. I want to quickly jump out here and show you. Oh, I wonder if I can do that. Sorry, bear with me here. Technology, not my strong suit. I'm gonna exit the full screen and ignore my tabs. Are you like me and have a million tabs? Okay, so I want to quickly show you just an example here. I know Stevo's not like me. So this is just one example. This is the Venture Rewards card from Capital One. And right now they're offering 2 times the miles and 75,000 bonus miles for new card members when you spend $4,000 on purchases in the first 3 months after opening your account. That is a lot of airline miles. That is probably the equivalent of 2 round-trip international flights.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So the one caveat is you usually do have to spend a certain amount of money in a set period of time to receive those miles. So this is something you can do before you even leave on your trip as you're preparing. If you know you need to buy flights or book Airbnbs or hotels or whatever you're going to book, if you know you're spending that money anyway, then that's a good time to get one of these cards, use it, and get those miles accrued.
Yeah. Christmas, birthdays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime you know you're going to be spending that money anyway. Obviously, don't go out of your way to spend money so you can get these miles. But we open a new card probably every 2 to 3 years in order to get a big bonus of miles. Last year, I think we used points to get 1, 2, 3, at least 3 free flights from New York down to Peru. We only had to pay taxes on those because we were able to use miles. And then from Panama back to LA, we were able to get flights covered by miles as well.
And that was 3 flights. Yeah, we went from
yeah, we went all over the place. Yeah, so maybe 4 if you can count like both of us, right? So these really do pay off to learn. There's a guy named the Points Guy. His website is excellent to tell you the latest deals, like which credit cards are good right now, because they're always changing offers. So you can look to him for that information. Okay, let me jump back into the presentation. Again, please bear with me. Okay. Okay, so that's credit cards.
Yes, credit cards are good. Credit cards can be very helpful. Also, pay your credit cards. The next thing you want to do is you want to set up auto pay. This sounds, duh, but this is something that you just want to take this off your plate and make sure that everything gets paid. If you are one of those people who likes to, log in manually, make sure that it's paid, you might miss the payment because you might be in a different part of the world. It might be tomorrow when you try to make that payment. So
you might be in transit. You might just forget what day it is. That happens a lot when you're traveling. So it's recommended to have your money, your bills all set up on auto pay. That's something we definitely recommend doing. And also, before you start your trip, make sure you notify your bank or your credit card company that you are traveling. Otherwise, they may
freeze your card, freeze your account.
Because they see strange activity in another country, like, oh, you're in Costa Rica all of a sudden? Like,
yeah, what's this?
Yeah, so make sure that doesn't happen to you and notify your bank. You can usually do that online these days.
It's very easy to do.
Yeah, we've also called in, so either way works.
Yeah, And if you're going to be in multiple countries, just let them know you're going to be traveling.
Yeah, if you're like us and you're traveling full time and to lots of different places, then just let them know I'm abroad, and that also works. They won't freeze your account. But when you do that and you have things on auto pay, that doesn't mean you're never looking at your accounts, and that's where money dates come in. So once a month, we recommend having a money date with yourself, with your partner, whatever makes sense for your situation. And basically sit down, look at all of your credit card statements, look at your bank statements, make sure there's nothing fishy or weird on there, and just go through where you're at with your finances. This is something that has been really major for us in terms of communicating around our finances better. We've been doing it for about 2 years, and it's made a massive difference. Sorry,
2 years.
Yeah, we started doing it in Albania a couple of years ago.
Oh, be ding danged.
Yeah.
It's been so good.
It's been so good to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
You know, we grab a cup of coffee, we sit down together for like an hour and just get it done. And yeah.
Money good.
Money good. Spend too much money.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, money dates are a game changer for you. Just set that time aside every month. We do it on the first of the month every month, and we just have it in the calendar. That's what we're doing. Another thing I want to mention quickly is if you have a credit card and you're worried about fraud or anything like that, you can set up alerts every time any amount of money is spent on your card. You can put like over $100, you could put like $2, whatever you choose, but your credit card company can send you an alert when money is spent, so you can make sure that there's no funny transactions throughout the month. So that's a good thing, and that's something we actually need to do. So giving you advice before we've done it, but my dad does it, and that's what made me think that it's a good idea. So yeah. All right. So budgeting, our next big section here.
So budgeting for full-time travel, because you don't want to spend all of your money. So this is something that is very specific to every person and really every trip. But here are the basic things that you're going to need to survive no matter where you are in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you really need to ask yourself, what sort of things do you want to get out of this trip? Do you like staying in nice hotels, or are you going to be out the whole time so you don't want to spend as much money on that?
Mm-hmm.
You got to eat. Is there a restaurant that you really want to go to? Foods you really want to try? Are you traveling fast or slow? Are you willing to take buses? Do you want to take vans, or will you fly everywhere? Are there things you really want to do? Do you really want to see Angkor Wat, go bungee jumping, cage diving, cage fighting, whatever floats your boat? Health and travel insurance, we'll talk more about that in another slide, but that's something that we definitely recommend, and needs to be in your budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like we we're talking about in the last slide, you might have extra expenses, your debts, your recurring bills. You need to make sure that you have those in mind when you're putting together this budget, because they want their money. They're going to get it.
Yeah, and if you have debt, I also want to make this point. You can still travel.
Mhm.
Like, don't hold back on living your life because you have debt. We just built it into our budget. So we've been paying off SIVO student loans. We have officially paid them all off. When we first started traveling, there was credit card debt that we needed to address, and we did. But if you have debt, just make it a part of your plan to continue paying it down, dealing with it, not ignoring it, add it into your budget. So again, like Steve said, this section is so specific to your preferences and what type of trip you're taking. And even for us, our budget is adjusted, and we look at it during our money dates, dependent on that season of travel for us. So because we work online, we have periods of time where we need to hunker down and get work done. So maybe for accommodation, we'll choose an Airbnb or a long-term house sit. And that way we know we have space where we can both be on the phone at the same time in the accommodation. We have fast Wi-Fi, all these important things for working on the road. If that's not such a concern for you, maybe location is more important. Maybe you love to be out and about all day, so you don't really care if it's a very nice place, and you want to eat all your meals out, so you don't even need a kitchen. So maybe a hotel is better for that situation, or a guest house, or it just really depends. And this fluctuates for everybody. So
And for every trip.
yeah, but there are some things we want to kind of go through. So like, as an example, if we were to be traveling to Athens, Greece, let's just do a little example here. How would we go about starting to budget? Because we've never been there before, so we don't really know what it's like, and we need to start planning and preparing our budget. So we would first jump on Airbnb just to give us a kind of idea of how much it might cost to stay there. And with Airbnb, you can put on certain filters. So this is totally just an example, but maybe for us, we want to have the entire place to ourselves. We don't want to just rent a room in someone's home. We'd like to pay under $700, let's say, for the place. If you have any preferences on bedrooms, bathrooms, that's fine. If you have a preference on the type of property, of course, you can put those things in. For sure, we'll need Wi-Fi. We love having a kitchen. So those are two things that are important to us when we're working and traveling.
Did 5 homes not have Wi-Fi? No.
Yeah, a bunch didn't have Wi-Fi. So
Huh.
it's good to put those filters on so you don't have to read so much as you're going through options. So there's plenty in our budget, pretty central in Athens or maybe a little bit on the outskirts. But this is giving us a good idea that there are places within our accommodation budget that look pretty nice. So we would go through and look at these different options.
Sorry, I was lost in the sauce. I was like, oh, where was that?
Yeah, I know. It's so fun to look. We honestly just play on Airbnb sometimes just to see what's available out there.
Yep.
And then another option might be house sitting. This is something Steve and I do a lot of. If you want more information about this, we will include it in the follow-up email. But we could look, okay, are there any house sits happening in Greece? There may or may not be at the moment. That's not typically,
well, no,
I
that's
didn't. That's not Greece.
oh,
Okay, so at the moment there are no house sits in Greece, but as you saw on the map, there are house sits available worldwide. So, if we wanted to go somewhere else in Europe, let's say, we could look for house sits there. It's just another option in terms of housing, and it fluctuates based on the time of year and what's available. So you can see here on this map, there's a lot available in Europe, just not in Greece at the moment. But just giving you another option.
and we love house sitting because it means our accommodation cost.
Yes. House sitting, the way we do it, works as an exchange. So we stay in someone's home while they're on their own trip. And in exchange, we take care of their dogs or cats or whatever animals they have, the house, all that general, stuff that we agree upon with the owner before they leave. And then we live there for free. And sometimes we even get to use their car. So it is a major way to save money on accommodation. We highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely one of the best travel hacks out there.
Yes. And then of course you're going to want to look at like the food. So we always like to look at people's actual travel blogs, rather than just TripAdvisor.
Yeah, looking at travel blogs, Reddit, TripAdvisor, they all have great advice. And when people agree about a certain restaurant, you can think, okay, might as well give that a shot.
Yeah.
We've gotten recommendations from friends. Yeah, but the internet is your best friend in these situations.
Yeah, there's so much info out there. And the thing about budgeting is it's such a yucky word, like, ugh, budgeting. Like, I don't want to budget. But actually, in reality, budgeting is kind of like part of your planning. And that's a really important and fun phase of travel, is to get excited about where you're going and the foods you can try, the things you can see. And so you can make this part of your travel planning really enjoyable, and get a sense of how much food will cost, obviously, is important. So you can decide, okay, do I even need an Airbnb with a kitchen, or can I just eat out for every meal? Is that something you want? Like, that's a nice thing to do. In some countries like Thailand, it's hard to even find a place with a kitchen. Sometimes it's not very common for a lot of Thai people to have a big kitchen in their home. Maybe just a hot plate, something to cook basic meals, because eating out is so affordable. And so, yeah, these are things to take into consideration when you're planning. The next thing was activities.
Something we love to do whenever we get to a new city is we go on a free walking tour, just so that we can get a lay of the land and know what we're looking at. We actually spent a few months in Bucharest and we did the walking tour like right before we left.
Yeah, so silly.
And we're like, oh, that's what that is. Oh, that's what that is. And so we now we always make sure to do it at the beginning of our trip so we get the lay of the land and we know a general overlay of the city.
And it's also a great way to meet at least one local, right? Your guide should be local. So they can recommend restaurants to you, types of food to try, places to go. It just really starts you off on the right foot. A lot of these free walking tours are donation based. So if you enjoyed the tour, then you pay the guide whatever you feel is fair. Usually, you base it on how many people are on your tour. Like if there's a lot of people on your tour, then you can, throw them 10, 20 euros, whatever. You get the idea. It's donation based. So, yeah, they're free, but
you gotta pay.
you should pay. Anyways, highly recommend that. Of course, there are always paid tours you can take as well. So it's always fun to look through these things. What can you do on your own? What can't you? What's important to you? maybe you love food, so you want to do a food tour kind of early on in your trip. That might be fun too. And then get to know things on your own after you do that trip. So Get Your Guide is a great place to book tours. There are loads of other tour websites out there. Viator is another one. Klook. Yeah, and we'll include some more information about these different websites in the follow-up email for you. Okay, so I think those are all the pieces of the budget. We're going to get into the health insurance stuff a couple slides later.
Yes, the next slide.
But that's just kind of what we do. We get a general overview of the cost of living there. Okay, is this going to be within our budget? Like, how much wiggle room are we going to have? Steve and I feel like we can travel pretty much anywhere in the world for the both of us for around $2,000 to $2,500 a month and live very comfortably, aside from maybe like the States or Australia. But even then, maybe the UK, but even then, when you cut out the accommodation cost and use trusted house sitters, then you know that brings you right back into being able to afford those places.
Yeah, $2,500 to spend on activities.
So if you are someone who wants to travel to some more expensive destinations like the UK, Australia, the US, those three places have a lot of house sitting possibilities. So if I jump back to that slide, you can see right now
the UK is great. Oh my gosh.
The UK has over 3,000 house sits available at the moment.
And it's like year round you can find a house sit
in the UK. Yeah. It's kind of our default place. Like if we're ever like, oh no, we have nowhere to go, or like no plan at the moment, we can always go to the UK and find a house sit.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to know that. As you can see here, the US has thousands of house sits available as well. That's also all year round. And
is that Iceland?
Oh yeah, there's a couple, or Greenland.
Oh, hopefully not Greenland.
I want to go to Greenland. I follow a Greenland person on Instagram. She's awesome. Oh. And then hundreds in Australia.
Oh, and New Zealand.
And New Zealand. So anyways, like those are three places that you could save a ton of money on accommodation through house sitting. All right. Back into full screen. Going to go into the next section. I know that might seem fairly basic about budgeting, but I just want to make it more enjoyable for you, hopefully, with those tips.
Yeah. Budgeting can be fun.
All right.
Big reveal. OS stands for oh shit.
So we want to talk about your oh shit fund. What is that? Oh, someone's at the front door. Can you go grab that? All right. Thank you. All right. I'll keep going. So what is an oh shit fund? So it's kind of what it sounds like. Any reason that you might need to say, oh shit, we need money. This is an amount of money that you have set aside, ideally that you don't need to touch, that is for emergency situations or something unexpected that comes up. So Steve and I have used our oh shit fund a couple times during the years. So Steve-O's grandma passed away a couple years ago, and we quickly needed to fly from Albania to St. Louis, Missouri, very quickly, within like 24 hours to get back for her funeral. And thankfully we had the money to do it because we were able to pull it out of our oh shit fund and then, replenish it later. But another time was when we both lost our jobs in 2021. Unexpectedly, the company we worked for fired every single person at the company overnight, basically. And that was awful. But we had our oh shit fund in place. And our goal was to not need to touch it. And thankfully we haven't needed to, but just the knowledge of having that money there is such a comforting relief mentally for us. And we highly recommend that you do this too. There was a point in time in our travels about 6 years ago when we didn't have an oh shit fund in place, an emergency fund, whatever you want to call it. I needed to have surgery. Unexpected medical things came up while we were traveling, and we were not in a good financial place at that point, and we had to borrow $1,000 from my parents, which felt horrible as adults needing to borrow money. And we never want to be in that position again. And so how much money should you put in your emergency fund? Our recommendation is 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. So, base that on your budget, whatever that is for you. For us, we say that's $2,000 a month, and we've built up our emergency fund at this point to have $12,000 in it. So that will cover us for 6 months of living, bare bones, basic necessities at a minimum, no matter what. And that is pretty major. Oh, welcome back. Um,
Come
okay, welcome back. I'm just telling them about the Oh Shit Fund. So how much money you should have. Our goal is to get our Oh Shit Fund up to 12 months worth of savings. So we're slowly building it up over time. And then where to keep the money? Do you want to jump in there?
Where to keep the money? You want to keep your oh shit fund in a high yield savings account.
That's just a recommendation that we have. It's something we only did a year ago, and we wish we would have done it sooner. Our $12,000 is sitting in two high yield savings accounts. Half of it is in a Capital One high yield savings account. The other half is in a Schwab equivalent kind of account. And we earn 4 to 5% a month on that money. And last year we earned $600 on money that is just sitting there. And, you know, if that was in a savings account, which it was previously, we'd make like 20 bucks a year. Maybe. So it's highly worthwhile to look into a high yield savings account. These are basically online banks that have very low overheads, so they're able to offer higher rates of return, but they are quite safe. And of course, do your own research. Again, this is not financial advice, but if you're going to be just keeping a large sum of money somewhere, this is a good place to park it. It's also easily accessible quickly. You just want to make sure whatever high yield savings account you choose is easily accessible, like within a day, which both of ours are, and that it's an FDIC insured bank that you're keeping it in. So that means like they guarantee that the money is safe, right? So this is really useful advice that can help you make money right away. Yeah.
I realized we started doing that.
Me too.
Censor.
Oops. Let someone else in the room. Hello. Okay, we're in the middle of everything right now, but we will be sending the replay, so no worries if you're just joining us. And we're going to jump in here to cover insurance and taxes. Okay. Okay, thanks for joining us. So I'm going to talk about this.
Well, the person's good.
Okay, so
now we are at the most fun part of the entire experience. We're talking about insurances and taxes.
all right. um,
So we want to talk about first about like what sort of insurance do you want to have while you're traveling? Typically, there are two options here. You can either get travel insurance or actual health insurance. This field has changed a lot, even in like the past like 2 years. There are a lot more products out there that will cover you for more things in more places. Typically, we have travel insurance, and what that does is it covers you for things that are going to keep you in the hospital overnight, anything that is inpatient.
Yeah. And basically like an unforeseen medical emergency is what you would have travel insurance for. So this isn't for like a routine healthcare visit, right? This is like, I broke my leg on a motorbike or something, right? Like something you didn't see coming. Travel insurance also covers repatriation if the worst happens and your body needs to be sent back home. Like, I know it's gruesome to talk about, but like these are things you want to have in place just in case when you're traveling. And at the bare minimum, Steve and I always get travel insurance. Where we're traveling, there are some companies that do this for nomads specifically. So those companies are Genki, Genki, and Safety Wing. So those are probably the top two companies for full-time travelers or nomads right now. And there is also World Nomads. So if you're a more adventurous traveler and you know you're going to be doing some activities that are, you know, adventure sports, things like that, you can look into the World Nomads Explorer plan because that covers a lot of those adventure activities. But if you're just looking for travel insurance that'll cover you month after month, Genki and Safety Wing do that well. We'll include links to this again in the follow-up email. But like as Steve mentioned, the field has changed. So last year, both Genki and Safety Wing introduced more comprehensive health insurance. And those are policies that cover you for routine care, preventative care. They don't cover you for pre-existing conditions, but they do cover you for things like mental health, physical therapy. There's lots more things that you can get. Yeah, your dental, yeah, which is huge. So what we personally do is we just have travel insurance. And then for preventative and routine care, we're happy to pay out of pocket and we put money aside for that. People everywhere in the world have bodies and, you know, they need the same stuff worked on everywhere, right? You can always find a place to go and get care. So we have gotten medical care and dental care all over the world at this point, all over Asia, all over Europe, like different countries, just wherever we are at the time, we make our health a priority and go get those checkups.
Yeah. I was just thinking of how all the different countries we've had our teeth cleaned in.
It's a lot,
I
probably.
can think of 5.
Yeah, so you can keep on top of those things, and it's often quite affordable. Like we got our teeth cleaned in Panama last year for $25 each, and it
Yeah.
was very good care. The dentist spoke English, and it was just as good as what we'd receive here in the States.
Yeah.
So it's very affordable.
We got a coupon on Instagram.
Yeah, you found that. That was good. And I get routine care every year because I have endometriosis. I need to go get certain things checked out every year. And so I've gone to the doctor in Malaysia, in Thailand, in Albania twice, actually, because I found a great doctor there I went back to. So, you can deal with these things abroad and just keep track of all of your paperwork and things. And then the next part, taxes. Steve-O's more expert at this.
So, no matter well, that's not true at all. If you're American, you have to pay your taxes every single year, no matter what. You always have to pay your federal taxes. When it comes to state taxes, it differs from state to state. We're California state residents, so if we are outside of California for a certain period of time, we don't have to pay our state taxes, but we do have to file, which we did not know until we got a very scary letter from the tax board. We resolved it. We're not going to prison for that. We'll end up there for some other reason eventually. But pay your taxes.
Yeah, just make sure you're on top of your taxes. I think America is one of the few countries where you always have to pay taxes, even if you're not living in the country. It is what it is. And of course, everyone's tax situation is pretty individual. If you're living abroad and actually working in another country, then you're probably paying taxes to that country on your job. And that means that you don't need to also pay taxes on that income in the US up to the first $120,000. So those are the rules as of 2023. Of course, they do change, but just be aware of your situation with taxes and don't not pay your taxes. We've met a lot of expats abroad, Americans who were like, oh no, I don't pay my taxes. And they paid the penalty for that later. Yeah, we had a friend who hadn't paid her taxes for like 7 years. And yeah, it was not good for her when she returned to the States. Megan. Yeah. Anyways.
What?
Yeah, I mean, it's just make sure you're on top of it. You can do it all online. So something we just want to emphasize here. Okay, and that is basically everything. I know that was a lot of information. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or we can jump into the questions that were submitted before this. So I see Ava, you're here. Do you have any questions? And if not, totally fine. Okay, then no worries. So we had a lot of questions submitted about insurance. So hopefully that section answered all of that. We also got some questions about the 90-180 rule for visas. So this is sort of finance related. You might need to pay for a visa depending what country you're going to and how long you want to stay there. The 90-180 rule is for the Schengen zone in Europe, which is a lot of EU countries, and other individual countries have this rule as well. It basically means you can only stay in that country for 90 out of 180 days. So any 180-day period, you look at that, and you can only be in the country for 90 days total. You don't want to overstay a visa ever, because it means the country could both fine you and bar you from entering for a certain period of time, usually many years. So always be aware of what you're allowed to do, how long you're allowed to stay somewhere. And then SIM cards.
SIM cards, there are a lot of different ways to do this.
Yeah, I think someone asked about like how do you deal with like phone communication abroad?
So the travel eSIMs do exist, but we for I mean pretty much every time we always get local SIM cards.
Yeah.
We do some basic rudimentary research about the best deal in the country, and then we'll usually find a storefront for that company in the city and buy a phone card straight from them. We typically don't get them at the airport because you don't get a great deal. But yeah, we always get a local SIM card. It's usually pretty cheap. and we'll get a local phone number, but we also have our WhatsApp numbers, so we're still able to communicate with everybody in our phone book.
Yeah, we keep our WhatsApp numbers what they are. We never change them to the new SIM card number, but we get local SIM cards because the coverage is often better than using, an international plan. If
Cheaper.
you're, yeah, better and cheaper coverage. So it's pretty affordable. This is something that if you're from the US, you might find strange. We get locked into these 12-month phone plans. And I don't know if other countries are necessarily like that. In our experience, they're not. You can just buy a SIM card and have coverage month to month and keep paying for it. So that is what we do. And it's worked really well for us. We tried an eSIM once, but we found that they weren't as affordable. And I also burned through all my gigs playing on Reddit in one evening and didn't realize it. So I think that's better to get a local SIM card because you get more coverage. So those are the answers to those two questions that were submitted. And again, if you're on this call right now and you have a question that we didn't cover, please feel free to reply to the email and let us know. So, and Ava, do you want to jump on or do you have any questions about anything? I don't know if you're in a place where you're able to talk right now or just kind of tuning in. And if not, that's totally fine. All right. So
Big Finish.
again, we just really want to thank you for being here. Oh, sorry, just saw you in the chat there. Okay, no worries. If you can't speak right now, no big deal. Yeah, thank you for being here. And thank you if you're watching this still right now. We really appreciate you being here. And we just want to say that if, traveling is a dream that's been on your heart, on your mind, you can absolutely make it happen. There are so many ways to do it. And we're here to answer any questions or help you out with that. So feel free to reach out anytime on Instagram or by email. We have lots of videos on our YouTube channel and on our blog. We have articles and other resources to help you that are free. So feel free to jump onto all those places and get in touch. And yeah.
And we love you.
All right. Talk to you later. Thanks.